Reading with your kids.
Hola, ni hao, konnichiwa, assalamu alaikum, shalom, jambo, bienvenidos. Hi, my name is Jedley, and this is the Reading with Your Kids podcast, coming to you from the beautiful neighborhood of Reedville in the southwest corner of Boston, Massachusetts. We are so happy that you are part of our Reading with Your Kids family. We don't want to lose you. Please make sure to subscribe to the show on the iHeartRadio app, wherever you find your podcast. We have a wonderful show for you today. Our guest is the author of Mommy's Big Red Monster Truck, Alison Paul Klakowicz. Before Alison and her Big Red Monster Truck join us, I want to let you know that this episode of the Reading with Your Kids podcast is brought to you by Dr. Connie Tate and her wonderful roll-on reading books. There are three great titles: Scooter Boy, Roll On, and Sylvester's Catastrophic Tales. You know, Dr. Connie Tate likes to say, it's summertime and it's time to read. Curl up with a book, there's no better deed. Reading is magical. Just open a book, you can travel the world from your own cozy nook. She's excited for you to meet the wonderful characters in her books. Cal is the star of Scooter Boy. He's really, really cool. Ren is the star of Roll On, and Ren was inspired by Connie's grandchild. And, of course, Sylvester. Sylvester, you're going to root for Sylvester's safe return and Sylvester's catastrophic tale. All of these books are available on Amazon.com or by going to Lucky Jenny Publishing, Inc. And don't forget to check out Dr. Connie Tate's website. It's www.rollonreading.com. That way you can find out more about the books and also download some fantastic free activities. Roll On Books by Dr. Connie Tate. This episode of the podcast is also brought to you by the last surviving dinosaur, the Tyrannosaurus, written by Stephen Joseph. You know, we talk about how much fun it is to read with our kids, and it's especially fun to read out loud with our kids. And what would make for a better read out loud book than a book that has 6 cranky relatives, 3 mean dinosaurs, and 1 very cranky Tyrannosaurus. The book is called The Last Surviving Dinosaur, the Tyrannosaurus, written by Stephen Joseph and playfully illustrated by Andy Case. The book tells the tale of how the dinosaurs became extinct, and not in the life-ending meteor shower the paleontologists often talk about. The Tyrannosaurus is so cranky that she makes all the other bigger and meaner dinosaurs disappear. That is, until she comes across the only dinosaur who is immune to her incessant complaining, the Tyrannosaurus. These 2 dinosaurs evolved into human beings, and that's where cranky people come from. Throughout the illustrated book, family members and dinosaurs humorously, I can't say humorously. I got through Tyrannosaurus, but I can't get through humorously. Throughout the book, family members and dinosaurs humorously battle to have the best sauruses. Now that's a Yiddish word for big, really big problems. And these problems include warts, alligator attacks, and brain tumors. Poor cousin Dottie grew an entire forest on her feet. Oi! As the best part of this very funny book is that it's not just for cranky kids. As the storyteller says in the end, even mommy and daddy can be a Crankosaurus and a Kvetchosaurus. All right. Listen, if you want to have fun with your kids, just imagine how much fun they're going to have listening to you mango Tyrannosaurus like I'm doing right now, okay? Check it out today. It's available on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and many other sites where books are sold. The Last Surviving Dinosaur, the Tyrannosaurus by Stephen Joseph. Get your copy today. Join us on the line right now from Fayetteville and North Carolina. She is the author of a really cool book called Mommy's Big Red Monster Truck. Please welcome to the show, Alison Paul Klakowicz. Alison, how are you?
I'm doing great, Jed. Thank you so much for having me. It's such an honor to be here and to be able to talk about my book.
Well, we're really excited to have you here. We were just reminiscing. North Carolina is such a beautiful part of the world, and the people are really special. It holds, Fayetteville especially holds a special place in my heart. My dad was a member of the 82nd Airborne Division, and that's where their home is. And so it's just the home to so many of our heroes. And so we're really happy to have you on. And it doesn't surprise me that the author of Mommy's Big Red Monster Truck is from North Carolina. So, Alison, can you tell us about the book?
Yes. Mommy's Big Red Monster Truck is my debut children's book. It's my first children's book, and it was inspired when my son, he's 7 now, but when he was a toddler, he was absolutely obsessed with monster trucks. And we had monster trucks everywhere, all over our house. It was like a monster truck bomb went off. We had little monster trucks, big monster trucks. And because we do live in a hero town, there's a lot of big trucks all over our town. And so one of the mornings when I would take him to preschool, he would see these big trucks drive by, and he'd yell from the back seat, "Mommy, there's a big monster truck, look." And then he'd follow it up and say, "Mommy, I wish you drove a big red monster truck." And we would, talk about it and laugh and talk about the different adventures we would take if we did have a monster truck. And so that inspired my book. And I just thought it would be really cool to write a book about a mom and her child and making memories around the world and around the country and even in their communities, and the importance of children spending time and parents making the time to spend with their children.
Everything you just said is so near and dear to my heart. And I was sharing with Alison a story about a tour that I did a number of years ago with my daughter and one of our international students, where I had a chance to tour for 3 weeks with these two incredibly intelligent young women while I was performing my educational magic shows. And that's something my daughter and I did a lot together, because she went to an international high school, and because of the nature of that, they didn't have the traditional vacation schedule. She would have a month off at a time, and very often during those vacations, she would just hop in my van and we'd tour around the country. And there was such special times. We didn't have a big red monster truck. I had a silver minivan.
Right. Much like me.
Yes.
People are always very disappointed to find out that I really don't drive a monster truck. Children, especially when I'm talking to them in bookstores or in schools, that is always a question I get. Do you drive a monster truck? And I'm like, no, I'm very sorry.
But you bring up a good point in that, we talk about how valuable the time is that when we choose to sit down and read with our kids. And the benefits of reading with our kids, they're so great. But the biggest benefit is just developing that bond together. And we can work on that bond and building that bond and creating those memories, whether we're reading together or in the van together or taking a hike in nature together. It's just making the conscious choice to be present with each other when we're doing our daily activities.
Yes, definitely. It's so important.
Yeah. So what parts
Your
of...
local...
I'm sorry, I stepped over you there. We're not able to see each other. What different parts of the country did you and your son go to in the big red monster truck?
In the big red monster truck. Well, in the big red monster truck, they, do their normal daily routines around their city, but they also visit, all of the U.S. states and kind of highlight, different special parts about these these states in the book. And then they also decide that their monster truck is so awesome that they could go to Canada. They could even float across the Atlantic Ocean all the way to England to visit the Queen. And it's even so rugged that it could drive all the way to China. So, they not only, go to school and wave at their friends and do their daily routines, but they also travel the world, basically.
That's great. Yeah, I hear the Queen is a fan of big red monster trucks.
I'm hoping so, and I really feel like she needs a copy, and all of the royal grandchildren need a copy of Mommy's Big Red Monster Truck. Need to start that campaign to get Mommy's Big Red Monster Truck at the palace.
Yeah. Well, I know one thing that would happen if the red monster truck did float across the ocean and start touring around Europe and China is that the people would be terrified because I think the big, huge trucks are really unique to the United States. I remember that.
I'm going to cut you off. It's funny you said that, Jed, because my husband and I were in Germany and Switzerland in the fall, and one of the things that I took note of, that we both took note of, there are no big trucks. So you're exactly right. Anywhere.
Well, the Italian student that I was mentioning going on tour with us, I remember when we picked her up at the airport and meeting her for the first time, we walked from the terminal out to the parking lot, and she looked and she goes, "Why in the world do you need something this big?" And I'm like, "It's a minivan. It's tiny, actually." But that's a great, your book is a great vehicle, I think, to just launch a family into conversations about travel and about different parts of the country and different parts of the world, and just getting families talking about that. Because one of the things that I hear from our international students is they're always very impressed with me because I can find their country on a map, and oftentimes I know who the leader of their government is. And they said most people in America don't know that. They don't know anything outside. They know Canada, they know Mexico, and then that's it. And I think that's something that we can that curiosity about different parts of the world. It's something that we can instill in our kids and help them develop when they're young through a great book like Mommy's Big Red Monster Truck.
Yes, definitely. That we need to be aware, and that they need to understand the world around them and the different people and cultures that exist. And I think it's an awesome introduction for young readers into social studies. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think that's something that's, we're missing in a lot of, because schools are just so busy and they're just trying to teach so many different things. And I think, social studies, and the studies of other countries and geography is something that's kind of been, put on the back burner. And it's like, well, if we can get to it, we will.
Right. And, I love, too, that when I am speaking with children in schools or bookstores, they love to tell me about the places that they visited, and especially here out of the Fayetteville area, because Fort Bragg is here and we are a military community. There are a lot of children that have lived all over the world. And so they get really excited when you speak about a state or a country that they've lived in, and they want to tell you about that. And it's really positive for the other children around to hear about their experiences and for them to be able to share and better understand one another and where they've lived and who they are.
I just need to share this as a little bit of a tangent, but I've actually had the honor of performing on a couple of military bases in the base schools, in the base elementary schools. And the kids and the school families that I've met at these schools are just amazing. They are so respectful, and it's just what America's supposed to be. It is an absolute rainbow of cultures and races, and they're getting along together, and they're being and they're super respectful of guests, and it's so much fun, and it's just such an honor performing for those kids.
Yeah, and I'm glad that you hit on that, because we are a diverse community, and through the military, probably a lot of people, their perspective is that it's just American born, American, citizen. A lot of people are from all over the world and it's integrated, and we love all of that diversity here in our military community.
What other kind of reactions are you getting from kids, and what kind of stories are kids sharing with you when you're reading? I know that you said that they're telling you about the places that they've lived. Any other kind of reactions and stories that the kids are sharing with you?
Well, also, Mommy's Big Red Monster Truck is also a bit of a love note to moms. I'm a little biased because it was inspired by my son, and so it's really cool to talk. And I also try to emphasize that this isn't just about mommies. Also, that I understand, that other children, don't always have the structure of a family. So maybe they have other caregivers or people that love them and take care of them, and it kind of opens up a conversation about just being loving and kind, and whomever is caring for you, that. And also there is a bit about being respectful and helping with daily chores and just nightly routines that are so important for a child. And so that any child that reads this can identify with the storyline. And that I also tell them too, it doesn't mean too that you have to travel the world or travel the country. You can just get out in your own community or just take time to spend, with your loved ones and make those memories together, and how important that is. And they love to give me feedback about that and talk. And then a lot of times they just have funny little questions about the illustrations, or, kids are so funny. They just come up with all kinds of different things. So it really opens up all types of conversation.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things I love about talking to kids about my shows or about my books is that it kind of gives me a better perspective. When I'm creating something, it's like, yes, this is what I'm intending to communicate to my audiences, whether they're live or whether they're reading my books or listening to a podcast. And so that's the intention, but it's always really important to find out what the folks are actually hearing on the other end.
Right. It is. It has been very validating for me. I think that if I had not pressed myself to kind of get out of my comfort zone and start to be more visible and the whole point, it's not just about writing the book and publishing the book. To me, it was about being a part of these children's lives and getting out and talking with them. And it's been very enriching for me. I've learned a lot from them, and so it's really been awesome.
That's great. Now, this seems like a great a book that just lends itself to a series. The Mommy and the Big Red Truck go to the North Pole and the Central America and all over the place. Any intentions to do that?
Oh gosh, everybody I know, I would love to, and it is a possibility in the future. And right now I'm focused on, my first year with Mommy's Big Red Monster Truck. But, next year I am kind of considering some different things. But everybody I know, everybody that I come into, oh, Mommy's Big Red Monster Truck needs to visit the national parks. Mommy's Big Red Monster Truck needs to visit each state individually or each country individually. So really the possibilities are endless. It's just kind of narrowing my focus and trying to see. But yes, I'd definitely be open to that. I'd love it. I think it would be awesome.
Now, I'm curious if Mommy and her Big Red Monster Truck and her son got up to the New England area and what you folks saw while you were here.
They did. They visited Maine, and they visited the lobster boats of Maine.
Very, very cool. Good place to start. And and Maine is just this huge, huge place. And, people think of Maine and they think of lobsters. But there's also parts, it can take you 5 or 6 hours to drive to the different parts of Maine from where you catch all those lobsters. So, it's very similar to North Carolina, from the coast to the mountains and everything in between. Absolutely. So this is exciting. Just think of all the different places that Mommy and her Big Red Monster Truck can be traveling to. Now, if somebody is out there listening this and they pick up Mommy's Big Red Monster Truck and they read it with their kids, is there a way for them to kind of communicate with you and say, well, Mommy and her Big Red Monster Truck should come to my state and my city and see these things? Is there a way to get that message to you?
Absolutely. I'm all over social media. I have a website that they can message me on, and it's www.Alison, A-L-I-S-O-N, Paul, P-A-U-L, Klakowicz, KLAKOWICZ.com. And I'm on Instagram at Alison Clack, Twitter at Klakowicz Allison, and then Mommy's Big Red Monster Truck has a Facebook page. So if they just type in Mommy's Big Red Monster Truck, it'll come up on Facebook. So any of those places, and yes, Mommy's Big Red Monster Truck is ready to go. We love to travel, and if your school or library system or whatever venue would like for us to come, I would love it. And I'm very excited. I'll say this. Deborah Williams is a children's book author and puppeteer and puppet maker out of Australia. And the wonderful Donna Cowan out of California, the superhero, the Courage of a Mouse superhero school series author, connected me with her. And Deborah has made me a monster truck puppet that is coming in the mail, and it has Mommy and her son finger puppets within the cab of the monster truck puppet. So I can't wait to make that part of my event, and I think the kids are going to absolutely love it.
that is really fantastic. Now, one last thing. It's a bit off topic, but we mentioned Fayetteville and being a military community. What can we do as civilians to kind of better support military families?
I just think better educating. Just learning more about what military families are all about. Really, yes, we are. We have some different challenges and some different lifestyle things that affect us through deployment. And also individuals that have to move frequently through communities. I think especially with those individuals, the community, should be conscientious and welcoming of those individuals. It's very hard for military children and the spouses to make these moves. And sometimes I think they feel a little isolated to just like the base life and but the military community surrounding them, just embrace those individuals because they're people and they want to feel a part of your community. we're trying really hard here in the Fayetteville area to pull people off, out into the community and to embrace Fayetteville here. I'm also a blogger, and I have a podcast where I kind of focus on our life here in Fayetteville as a military family and try to encourage others to, there's so much going on, and come out, be a part of the community, but also hoping that the civilian side is welcoming to those individuals too, because they just want to feel accepted. They want to feel loved, and they want to feel part of a community. Mm-hmm. So I think that's probably one of the biggest things. Just be welcoming, and it'll go a long way.
Yeah, and that to me is the very least that we can do, because military families sacrifice so much. Not only the family member that is serving in the military, but the families also make tremendous sacrifices. So thank you to all those military families out there making those sacrifices. We really appreciate it. And I really appreciate the fact that we've had such a lovely conversation about Mommy's Big Red Monster Truck. We've been speaking with the author, Alison Paul Klakowicz. Alison, thank you so much for being part of our show.
Thank you, Jed. It was awesome. You're so charming and wonderful, and we're going to get you down here to North Carolina to do some magic shows.
Please be sure to join us for the next edition of the Reading with Your Kids podcast. If you like to laugh, you do not want to miss Stephen Joseph's visit to the Reading with Your Kids podcast. Stephen is the author of The Last Surviving Dinosaur, the Tarantacranchosaurus. You can find out the origins of the book, of this idea, and also learn a lot about those old relatives that Stephen that inspired Stephen to write this book. It's really a sweet story, and also very moving in places. So the next episode has it all. Lots of laughs, lots of great ideas that we can talk to our kids about. You might even shed a tear listening to my conversation with Stephen Joseph on the next episode of the Reading with Your Kids podcast. If you are an author and would like to tell the world about your great children's book, we would love to give you a chance to do just that. Being a guest on the podcast, it's fun, it's easy, and it gives you the chance to tell thousands and thousands of people about your great children's book. All you need to do is to visit our website, readingwithyourkids.com, click on the contact button, let my producer Fatima know all about your great book. She will let you know the next easy steps. Hey, we want to thank Alison Paul Klakowicz for being here today. We want to thank Stephen Joseph and Dr. Connie Tate for sponsoring the show. Be sure to check out their books, The Last Surviving Dinosaur, the Tarantacranchosaurus by Stephen Joseph, and also Roll On Books. Roll On Books by Dr. Connie Tate. It's Sylvester's Catastrophic Tale, Roll On, and Scooter Boy. Also need to thank my amazing producer, Fatima. She is amazing. She does so much to make the show great. I need to thank my beautiful wife for all the support that she gives me. And, of course, I need to thank you. Thank you so much for being part of our beautiful Reading with Your Kids family. Please do make sure that you subscribe to the show on the iHeartRadio app or wherever you find your podcast. Also, thank you so much for making the world a better place. You do that every time you read with your kids. I'll be looking for you the next edition of the Reading with Your Kids podcast.